Do re mi, Pasto Latino. It's Sports Reports is ordered. Mr. Logical.
You're
Don't bring feelings to a fact fight.
not at all.
VA born. Jersey's own. Air Force vet dedicated. Father. Sports aficionado. One and only. And yo, I am 2-5. And I am upset. And y'all about to find out right now. Get it off my chest.
Let's go. Let's hear it.
So, Mr. Logical always tells me this. Like, for somebody that loves sports, you sure get pissed off at sports a lot. And I tell him, I'm not pissed off at sports. I'm pissed off at you. I'm pissed off at one Cameron Newton because he's famous enough for y'all to repeat the stupid shit that he says. What the fuck is a game changer? Why are we changing the definition of game manager in real time? When I watch Brock Purdy, I don't see Jimmy Garoppolo or Alex Smith. I don't see Trent Dilfer or old man Brad Johnson that won a Super Bowl. But just walk down this path with me. Let's go down the yellow brick road for a second. Because I was trying to figure out, right, like, what is a game changer? Like, is Christian McCaffrey a game changer? You know, like, is Austin Eckler a game changer? Is Devontae Smith a game changer? Or is this just related to quarterbacks? And the reason why I asked that question, and before I go any further, I know it's a team game. But Cam knows that too. And Cam should know that better than most because most of his career in Carolina, he didn't have the requisite parts that he needed to go on Super Bowl runs consistently. But let's just play a game real quick. Josh Allen is a game changer. I ain't seen him in the Super Bowl. He got a nice team that, you know, before this season, the prior 3 years, they had a top 3 defense, had Stephon Diggs. True. Now they got a running game. And then, well, now that I think about it, he might be a game changer. He changes the fortune of the other team. Lamar Jackson's a game changer until he's not. 2-time MVP, 1-time unanimous. I ain't seen him in the Super Bowl. Hell, this year's the first time he made the conference championship game. Had a losing playoff record at home, and guess what? Still does. Justin Herbert might be a game changer. Same Justin Herbert that throws the ball 700 times and can't throw 30 touchdowns. Joe Burrow's a game changer. He's all infirmary team right next to Anthony Davis. He changes the game for the Bengals opponent because he's not available. So I say all that to ask, what are we trying to accomplish? Because last time I checked, Brock Purdy is in his second year. He was a 7th round draft pick. So what are we even arguing? Or are we just arguing because we like to argue or because some celebrity said something stupid, and since he's a celebrity, y'all clicked on it, and y'all just gonna keep repeating everything that these celebrities say? I never even heard game changer before he started talking. I heard impact player, but that could be anybody. I heard X Factor, but that could be anybody. The only thing dumber than this is this whole Mike Epps and Shannon Sharp conversation. So that's what I wanted to get off my chest.
I agree, man. Like I said, the whole Brock Purdy conversation the argument against it makes no sense. It simply doesn't. He makes the plays that you need him to make. He makes the throws you need. He wins games. Yeah, if a quarterback is getting pressured, he might not have that great of a game, but that's pretty standard. If you have a guy in his face, yeah, he might throw a bad pass. But last night, at Super Bowl, nothing. He looked more comfortable on the field than I've seen Tua in the last few big games. Than Lamar looked in the AFC Championship game. He looked more comfortable than Jimmy Garoppolo ever really did in that offense. It's just he was playing against a guy that just has seen it for 6 seasons. Well, I mean, if you factor in Mahomes' year that he sat behind Alex Smith, he has 7 years of film study, 7 years of couple of playoff games at least every year. I think the first year with Alex Smith, I believe they got eliminated maybe in the divisional round. But he just has so many reps and he's seen so many things that, yeah, he can make these plays that Brock Purdy can't make. But if you look at trajectory, first year Mahomes went to AFC Championship game. If it wasn't for
D Ford.
D4 all sides, he would have been in Super Bowl. The elbow injury that Brock Purdy suffered last year in the NFC Championship game, they said he was supposed to be out for a year. Like 9 months to a year, he was back ready for week 1.
Right.
I mean, like it just the story of Brock Purdy should be something that everyone holds on to as this literally, I know the last pick in the draft, but a guy who was a third stringer came up, got his opportunity, and it's not letting it go. Like that's what everybody wants for their own story to be. I relied on me. I depended on me. I did what I need to do, and now look at me on the big stage because of my efforts. That's what Brock Purdy's doing.
Right.
He probably wasn't heavily recruited. He definitely doesn't look the part. Like even when you see him outside the pocket, he still looks small. He's probably 6'1", but probably more like 5'11" and a half.
See, and that's my
But
question.
he makes all the plays that you need to make in any offense. And like I said, Peyton Manning was a game manager. He just managed to throw 49 touchdowns one year. And then he threw 55 another year. Like that's what these guys do. I want you to be good at managing the game because you're on the field for that. I don't need you to prove to me that you can come from 10 down. I know Mahomes would like it to start off Super Bowls better than they have. Right. I know he would rather be up 10-0, 14-0 after the first couple of possessions versus having to claw back in. Brock Purdy had them up 10-0.
Now that I'm a little bit older, I like to look at the full picture, right? So when I'm looking at the full picture, I understand that Brock Purdy has the Power Rangers next to him. You know what I'm saying? He's got the squad.
But every good NFL team does.
But that's what I was just about to say, because Kirk Cousins got what? Well, he got injured this year, but, he's got Jefferson. They got Jordan Addison. They had Dalvin Cook. They had Daniil Hunter on defense. They had Xavier Rhodes when he was in his prime still a little bit. And they weren't making Super Bowls. Drew Brees.
They made a great in division to get TJ Hockenson, top 5 tight end in the league, to add to Justin Jefferson.
Right.
And Adam Thielen,
Drew Brees, for all his numbers and all the records and statistics that he put up, how many years did he miss the playoffs? So what I'm saying is, if I'm going to criticize Brock Purdy because he can't get it done in his second year, with the squad that he has, what am I doing? We would criticize him if he wasn't doing what he's doing with this team. So if you would criticize him for that, how are you going to criticize him for succeeding with the team that obviously it's not that easy?
And the thing about it, I think Cam Newton should probably more identify with Brock Purdy than his statements. Because if you think about Cam went to Florida, had his issue, got kicked out, went to junior college, went to Auburn. Auburn didn't have that many guys from the NFL. I think 3 other guys from that team.
Yeah, I know. I remember NFL Nick Fairley.
It's something like 3 to 4 guys besides Cam that actually got snaps in the NFL. So he carried a pretty average team to the national championship. But even then, people thought that you can't do this with a running quarterback that's that big. And then he went out, won MVP, excuse me, went to the Super Bowl. So he should feel like I understand the criticism that Brock is dealing with instead of adding gasoline to this criticism fire. Like you should identify more with Brock Purdy's journey
Right.
than you are. Like I get that you are dynamic and being 6'5", 250, can run the way he runs, the way he played, but it's like he is not out here telling people that he's the best quarterback or anything else. All he's doing is stepping up every single opportunity, being ready for the moment. Like I criticized him for playing poorly against Green Bay, playing poorly against Detroit, and I thought he would play. I thought he would make one or two bad plays in this game, and he didn't.
And the things that he did against Green Bay and Detroit are not that's not the stuff of game managers. Alex Smith isn't pulling out those games in that way. Chad Pennington's not pulling out the game in that way. So Cam Newton, bottom line, we respect you enough that we listen to what you got to say. Just be correct. And then number two, don't throw rocks and hide your hands. You know what I'm saying? So Patrick Mahomes came through last night, and he said that he learned the game from William Wesley, and you could never check him. So how was it won, Raph? Mr. Logical, how did it happen?
Defense. And I was telling you last night.
But you thought I was crazy for saying that a defensive player should be the MVP. But go ahead.
Last night, I didn't. Granted, we had this conversation when I was 4 or 5 tequila sunrises deep, but I thought Chris Jones was very impactful. But what Mahomes did for the game is why he was MVP. The runs, the 4th and 1, the 22-yard run. He the leading rusher. He had 333 yards passing. They were behind for 42 minutes of the game. Yes, the defense kept them in, but the same thing with San Francisco. Their defense kept them ahead for most of the game. And they had guys, Armstead had a couple of sacks. Chase Young had a sack. Bosa was everywhere. Bosa was in coverage defending passes.
Armstead, who don't know the overtime rules.
Hughes didn't know the overtime rules either. There's a couple of guys that didn't know.
He went to Harvard. Shit.
Yeah. I guess guys, they only worry about their position. So with so many people defensively that were playing great on San Francisco, and then how great the defense was playing on Kansas City, one player made the difference for the two teams. Mahomes did the things that said that in a game full of valuable players, I did the most valuable thing. Like Juwan Jennings probably would have got it off the stats, off the, I think, catching a touchdown. I think he had about 40 yards receiving, threw a touchdown. Maybe you argue for a 49er defensive player.
Fred Warner, probably.
But sometimes we know it's unfair. In order for a defensive player to get the MVP, and the same similar with running backs, either you have to break a record or you got to just kind of be in every stat category. So he would have probably needed a forced fumble along with the tackles, maybe a sack, or like a forced fumble, all those tackles, and an interception, like a timely one, like a late third quarter, early fourth. He would need like a play because we don't really know who makes the tackles a lot of times. Like, there's so many guys, like, you don't really think about, oh, that guy got 8 tackles. You know, a guy who has, man, he's getting a lot of catches. You know, Debo, you know that McCaffrey's getting a lot of runs because he's out there singular by himself. But on the tackle, you don't know if it's Nick Bolton or Tranquil that got the tackle while you're watching the play until, like, you know, it all kind of pans out. So you would need an impact play as a defensive player. I think Chris Jones was probably like the one of the biggest factors in the push up front, but he needed like a sack or strip sack or something, maybe a sack that gets him out of field goal range. You need something. I know the play that they got in overtime where Brock Purdy had to throw it early. That was an MVP caliber play, but then Mahomes marched him down the field, went 8 for 8. He had like 30 yards rushing on that drive. It was like he had 69 of the 75 yards on that drive and the game-winning touchdown.
So I agree that Patrick Mahomes was the MVP if all we care about is stats, which is like kind of ironic for me to say that, right? But
yeah,
also,
that guy.
Also, if you reduce the game to a quarter and a half or a quarter, like we used to do Tim Tebow, they would win these games 7-3, punt after punt after punt, and then he would make this play, and we say he's just a winner.
No, we didn't say that.
Well, we didn't say that.
Bayless said that.
Yeah. But that's what we're doing with Patrick Mahomes, though. They didn't even score their first touchdown until the third quarter after they got the ball at the 13 because they hit a dude in the foot.
Yeah, and he
Kansas
threw
City
it.
recovered it. Up until that point, now, yes, Chris Jones didn't have a sack. He had 6 pressures, 2 quarterback hits. He had only 4 tackles. I get it. But the argument for somebody like Chris Jones is the Aaron Donald argument, where sometimes what they do just doesn't show up statistically because they affect everything else, and what they do allows the next player to do what they do.
Also, but the Aaron Donald that play against Joe Burrow, that play sealed it. Like, that was a play you remember. You remember him coming through.
I remember that
getting Burrow by the waist. But no one else.
The point that I'm trying to make, though, is that Mahomes doesn't get to be the hero if the defense didn't put on the cape first.
But that's the standard for every game.
That's not the standard for every game. That's not the standard for every game. If they had won 27-24 and he threw 31-24 and he threw 4 touchdown passes, I can't even make the argument that I'm making right now. They scored 6 points in the first half?
3
points. 3 points in the first half, 10-3. And that's where, like, for me, I'm just saying that if you're going to be most valuable, you should probably be most valuable for the majority of the game. Not just this drive or this moment.
So Cooper Kupp got it that year, right?
Yes.
And he got it essentially for his plays down the stretch in the fourth quarter. That final drive.
Yep.
Getting the penalty called and then getting the touchdown on Eli Apple. Like, that's why you got it.
There was nobody else to give it to, though, in that situation.
You looked at, like, when Malcolm Smith won it, when Denver, the one we watched at Mike's house.
the Denver Seattle Super Bowl. Yeah.
So he got the pick 6, but that game was pretty much dominated by defense. So you couldn't give it to Russell Wilson because, like, the defense had just completely squashed Denver's offensive hope. So that went to a defensive player because the impact of the game. But when it comes down to, like, these timely moments, and granted, Mahomes historically, granted his 3 Super Bowl MVPs, he hasn't played like the MVP season guy the whole game. But ironically, Tom Brady in New England was the same way. I don't think they had a first quarter touchdown in almost all of their Super Bowls.
Yeah, just like last year, they don't win that game without Kadarius Toney's punt return.
Yeah, so it's just like, I think I get that.
Damian Williams, the previous Super Bowl, they don't win without Damian Williams.
Yeah, but in that game, because they're trying to Skip Bayless was making an argument that he was MVP. And Shannon Sharp said something. He was like, before that long, I think he had like a 30-yard touchdown run or something like that.
He didn't do much. Yeah.
He had the one catch from Mahomes for the touchdown. And then I think he had like 60-something yards before that handoff. Well, all they needed was a first down.
Right.
So he didn't need the touchdown. So he went from 60-something yards rushing to 100 with 2 touchdowns, because that last 30, like, he could have he takes 2, he slides down the 1 yard line. They're taking 2 knees and the game's over.
Right.
But like I said, with Mahomes, with everybody playing, I think the defense on San Francisco played very well. I think offensively, San Francisco played well. I think Kansas City's defense played well. The one guy that made the game-changing plays when the game was on the line was Patrick Mahomes. That's why he's MVP. I'm not saying
true,
Christian.
though. That's not true, though. What Mahomes doesn't even matter if Jones doesn't get through on that play.
Well, they still scored a touchdown.
They scored a field goal. They scored a field goal. That's what I'm saying. Like,
San Francisco, that was overtime. So San Francisco still, that's a touchdown, and Kansas City still gets the ball back.
Yes,
and then Mahomes went down there and got the touchdown.
They were going to go for two.
They would go for two. Yeah,
they missed that two. We're having a whole different conversation.
But he already got the touchdown. He still was going, like, if we look at it that way, like, oh, well, if Jones doesn't get through on that play, I'm not saying Jones didn't have an outstanding game, but play after play after play from the fourth quarter through the game-winning pass was Mahomes. He led his team in rushing. Of course, you need the other side of the ball, but I'm talking about when you have the ball in your hand, you make the play.
But what I'm saying is, if Kansas City would have scored 34 points and it would have looked Mahomes, vintage Mahomes, we'd have been talking about GOAT this, GOAT that. He's the man. You can't do this and do that. He plays like shit for like 60% of the game, and we're like, oh, but he showed up when it mattered. Like when Shaq was talking about, I hit the free throws when they matter. Well, you might have some more championships if you would have hit the other ones too.
I get your argument. I understand your argument, but you're doing the thing that you don't like when people do. When people take the results at the end and then you facilitate like a whole different argument. Every single Super Bowl MVP doesn't play great all game long. And because it's a Super Bowl, the impact plays that normally lead to touchdowns, that guy ends up being MVP. Hence why when Julian Edelman had 14 receptions, he was an MVP, even though Tom Brady was throwing the ball, because Tom Brady didn't do anything else. Brady throws
won.
But I think they were GMC and Tom Brady had a beef over like the year before. I remember that because I was like, there's no way in hell. Because Tom Brady threw some TDs in that game. Just Branch had broke. I think it was like Jerry Rice's Super Bowl record.
Yeah. And Jerry Rice got a Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah. So when Tom Brady won MVP, when Malcolm Butler made the interception, that interception is the impact play. Now, Tom Brady, if the score was 13-10 and he made that interception, he'll probably end up being MVP because it took the win away from Seattle. Uh-huh. But Tom Brady had all the other drives because he didn't play great. They were down 10 in the second half.
He didn't play great when they beat Kansas City in the Super Bowl. That's what I'm saying. Like sometimes the quarterback just becomes the default, and I think that. Like, I'm not trying to say that Patrick Mahomes did not. I'm not saying that he. When I say
if they would have handed the ball off to Pacheco and Pacheco scores an overtime touchbound, then
Mr. 3.5 yards a carry. That's how you represent New Jersey.
No, listen, hey, that's 2 rings. That boy got 2 rings. He got more than Mike Trout. They're from the same hood. So I look at it like this: Peyton Manning got with 1 touchdown, 1 interception at Chicago Bears.
And Dominic Rhodes should have been the MVP.
And because he had the one wide open Reggie Wayne, and he got the MVP. That there was an argument because somebody else was playing better offensive, defensively, statistically. I know Chris Jones had a great impact, but in order to win it defensively, you gotta have you have to do something with the ball. Either you got to create a turnover, couple of sacks, but that's just part of the course. Like no quarterback is going to win it with 0 touchdowns. Tom Brady, he got his first MVP because he led that final drive because everything was pretty even. Literally, it was a tie game when you get the ball back. Everyone thought it was going to go. They're going to take a knee, but then he leads the drive and Vinatieri makes the kick. So it's like, okay.
No, I know that realistically Mahomes was going to win it. What I'm saying is that, I'm 2.5. You know what I'm saying? I like it's time for a new thought. Like we can't just keep like we talked about Lamar Jackson in the MVP. It's just time for a new thought. Like
they went with that new thought, and Lamar was unanimous MVP, and we've been seeing all week everybody's got Tyrod Taylor stats, and they're posting all these different things because
no
it's like
context.
there's no context. But like I said, and I think all things were even. I think each defense played on par. I don't. They did get beat with the routes that I said they were getting beat with these drag routes underneath. But the play for the touchdown with McCall Hardman, that's the same play they ran against Philly last year.
Right.
It was such a Patrick Mahomes played average for 35 minutes, 35, 40 minutes. And then he played spectacular for 25 minutes.
Right.
And the 25 minutes, because he had the one bad interception, because it was bad. It was an overthrow to Kelsey, which is rare for him. And then to bounce back, like I said, I was talking last night, like his face, no matter what happens, it'll be initial, like, and then by the time the camera's back on him again, he's on to the next play. Right. He just has something different. And that's why in those moments, 4th and 1, they roll Kelsey out. He was like, nah, I'm just gonna run this. I got this. I'm gonna run this, get down, get back up. The clock's running. There's no panic. There's no panic on the team. And we talked about with Lamar. We talked about it in the NFC Championship with Detroit. Sometimes you just need that calm, and he provides that calm. Like that's his overall value. It's like they never get rattled. Well, and I think the defense never gets rattled either.
Not the calm out here trying to beat up his coach.
Oh yeah, he was about to beat the hell out of Andy Reid. Did you see the picture? It's a dope picture of like Andy Reid looking straight, and then you see this bearded.
I normally try not to go there.
Here we go. Let's go.
I agree with AJ Brown and Tyreek Hill. You know what I'm saying? I agree with him.
What they say? They said if he was black, he'd be all over the news.
Yeah, like AJ Brown was basically like, like I'd have got kicked off the team or something, or like, or like, well, I don't know if he would have got kicked off the team. That's a little hyperbole, obviously, but yeah, it would definitely be leading all the shows. I listened to like 5 different NFL specific podcasts today, and I heard one person bring it up. Now, obviously, you won the game. Sometimes it just blows over or whatever the case may be.
Like I said in our preview,
was winning when he was celebrating.
It was passion. It's passion when you win the big game. It's a distraction when you lose.
It's passion when you got the complexion for protection.
When you pale, when you got a little pale skin, is considered passion. Sometimes no one can really argue that.
Yeah, and I'm not even trying to say that there's anything. You ready for this one? I'm not even saying there's anything nefarious going on or anything like that.
I knew he was going to give my word. I was going to go benevolent, but you keep going.
But I'm just saying that I think it's just one of those subconscious things that we don't bring to the conscious enough. So I'm not.
But I think even if it was regarding a black player or any player, I think it gets brought up too much because. Do you realize what these men are putting their bodies through to play this game, and you want them to be level-headed? That's why I hate when you get like a taunting call for like. Remember that year? It was the year when they were calling taunting every week.
Yeah,
like every week in big moments they were calling taunting calls.
They take a touchdown away if you taunting on your way to
the LSU kicker that one time. So it just. To expect these guys just to come right back down to no, these guys are on the edge. They're peak performance, peak physical, peak physicality, just peak combat essentially in their eyes. And sometimes it comes out. Do I think he would have reacted that way if it wasn't a fumble? No. So his reaction is probably thinking I could have got the block on that edge, and Pacheco wouldn't have had to cut. Whatever the case may be. But
3.5 yards a carry.
Listen, that's what McCaffrey went 3.6, and he was on the pace to be MVP.
But it was because I was telling you, they needed to hit the perimeter against San Francisco, but for whatever reason, they didn't do that a lot. I don't know what they saw or what
they figured out the drag route, because that's when I tell you that drag route was huge. So they would go trips. They would stack on the left side and run somebody underneath. McKinnon, when he caught his pass, I think late in the fourth, maybe overtime, they slipped him out. But Rashee Rice did like a little curl route.
False alarm. I thought I found George Kittle. 2 catches for 4 yards.
defense. That's what I watched.
Somebody asked me earlier, Lethal asked me earlier, is it time, shout out to Cups in the Gang, he asked me if we need to have a conversation about George Kittle. And my answer was, and I just want to know your thoughts on it. My answer was, if it was just George Kittle, sure. But Ayuk didn't do anything. Debo didn't do much.
Nope.
Sometimes the other team just plays better.
The only pass catching receiver that had top notch numbers was Kelsey, 9 for 93. Everybody else was around 5 for 40.
Yeah, McCole had the long one. I think it was 58 yards or so.
He had the long one, but I'm gonna pull his stats up here real quick.
Pause.
So pause. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah. So let's see. Receiving.
But yeah, so Kansas City left the corners on the island, and that's why I was trying to make such a big deal, even though I know he can't win the MVP. Somebody like Chris Jones and McDuffie had a great game too. But I wanted to point out, because Kansas City literally left their corners out there, and they were bringing it right up the middle, at times, and Purdy just couldn't react quick enough. Not his fault. Not many quarterbacks, on that last play, at least with Chris Jones, not a lot of quarterbacks would have made that throw on time either. The play that
if you're going to let anybody through clean, I would not let 95 through clean.
Right. And then McDuffie had one.
30.
McDuffie had one on their last drive before overtime on third down, where it was kind of the same thing. And I know Brock Purdy had a throw in the first quarter. I believe it was to Debo in the back of the end zone. And Snead batted it. And those inches, pause, are sometimes the difference between winning and losing.
Yeah. But like I said, that's the thing. If you look at the game, it was a great defensive game. I think both defensive coordinators earn pay raises for sure. But like I said, if you look at statistically, McCole Hardman had the touchdown and the big catch, but he only had 3 catches for 57 yards.
Right. MVS tried to Shaq the Fool on us.
Yeah, he had 3 catches for 20 yards and a touchdown.
And he should have 28 yards, but he ran the wrong way.
Like I said, George Kittle only had 2 for 4.
Yeah.
But Juszczyk had 2 for 31. Most of that came on that first round where he hurdled the guy. Right. So, McCaffrey had 8 for 80.
Yeah.
But so that's what you had. You had the star step up offensively. So you had 3 or 4 of them between Kelsey, McCaffrey. I think Brock Purdy played a great game through the touchdown.
Yeah, I'll give him a B.
Yeah. I'll give him I'll say great game just because he played. He never looked rattled either.
Right.
It's just, I think Kansas City just all year long. And they're playing, I won't say they're playing with house money, but they have a very young secondary, and they're deep. And the only person they're paying a lot of money to, I believe, is probably Chris Jones.
Well, he, what's his name? Snead is a free agent, so we'll see if he goes and get paid. I know that as I was looking at the game, I know everybody wants to bang on Kyle Shanahan. I
don't see where though. I don't
see it either. The only complaint that I had. Well, I have 2 complaints actually. The 2 complaints that I have is they could have ran a little bit more of Elijah Mitchell, but they could do that every week. And then number 2, those first 2 drives of the third quarter, give me a screen, give me a draw play, and for the love of God, stop with the false starts.
This game didn't have a lot of penalties. I know the overtime they got the whole Duffy.
It should have,
because that was going to be a punt.
Yeah, Kansas City was holding from the second quarter on, and they didn't call one of them. It's one thing, they say holding happens on every play. We could call holding on every play, but you called holding on none of the plays. You even brought it up about how Bosa got thrown to the ground.
Yeah, on that the 3rd and 10, I think in the fourth
quarter. Yeah,
when they like after 16-13 fourth quarter, I think Bosa came around the edge, and I believe he got hung up. I'll try to find it.
Yeah, and then we had Chase Young. I saw a play where like he got bear hugged by the lineman, and then another dude was coming in from the side too. And and that was the play to Hartman, the big play. And that's where
I saw that one too.
And that's where, like, for me, I be trying to defend the NFL because these people out here saying that it's rigged. But when stuff like that happen, I don't know what to say.
I mean, you got, like I said, San Francisco, if they didn't call that hold on McDuffie in overtime, then it could, like, they definitely were slanted. Because when I saw, because it happened a couple times, when I saw the flag come out, I was like, oh, the one they called on Snead. Ayuk was tugging him by the jersey.
Right.
After the play. But, like, the second guy always gets called. And that was bad because I was going to be 3rd and 2. I mean, like I said, penalties happen. I feel like I'm glad penalties weren't the.
Well, that's what I was just about to say. That's the other sports thing that I hate is that everybody complains about refs. And then they tell on themselves. Like, when we watch a basketball, they say, you can't call that on LeBron. You can't call that on Kawhi. You can't call that on Giannis. Then they say, oh, but it was only 3 seconds left. You can't call a foul there. So is it a foul or is it not? So with Kansas City, you can't, like, I brought up Fred Warner and how, like, I thought he committed pass interference on the last play before Kansas City's field goal in regulation that sent it to overtime. And it was like, you can't call that there. Like, it's the Super Bowl. Well, tell Fred Warner to keep his damn hands to himself and I wouldn't call
it. Like, I think people, because they're human, being the refs, like I said, I was at my son's game today, and the other team literally would travel every possession because they were running like they were doing like weave passes and stuff like that. So these guys would like travel every possession. One kid was probably double dribbling every time he touched the ball, like two hands. I'm just like, bro, like he's literally pushing the ball down with 2 hands 2 times. I was like, you're not gonna call that? So the ref came over and was like, listen, I'll call a travel if it's a competitive travel, like if it gives them an advantage on a shot. But if you're just like standing out there and like they're moving their pivot foot, he's like, I can't call it every time. I'm like, you gotta call it if they're traveling every possession. It's one thing if it like, it happens every so often. He's like, we're trying to get a flow to the game. I'm like, I get that. But so then the next travel call was called on us when our kid got pushed with 2 hands. He got pushed with 2 hands, caused him to travel. They're like right in front of our bench. And the coach was like, he shoved him with 2 hands. But in the same sense, it's like, as a ref, you got to understand you're human. You got to make mistakes.
Right.
But when you make the call, you got to be right. And I think, and sometimes it's like, I don't know for sure if that bump by Warner or that grab by Warner really affected the play. So I can't throw it. But if you're at the point, like, hey, like I said, McDuffie was out there in the slot by himself. So when he got beat off the line and he grabbed the guy around the waist, even though I don't think he intentionally reached for it, I think as he was stumbling, he just ran through his arm. You got to call it because it's like, it's right there. It's 3rd down. It's the guy right in the slot. So it's like, it's very obvious. You got to call it. But, in the mix, in the fray, in the middle, sometimes you can't call it. Like I say, you can call a holding every time.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the holding rule is in the NFL. They say if you keep your hands inside. So I'm like, okay, so if you're here, so Trent Williams
I can hold, you just can't see me hold.
Yeah, so my hands are inside, it's not a hold. So if you got somebody right here, it's good. But as soon as they try to get away and it's this a hold, I'm like, I'm already holding them. Right. So like I don't get the rule as is.
So what do we do with Patrick Mahomes now? He becomes one of 3 with 3 Super Bowl MVPs, with Joe Montana and Tom Brady. One of 8 teams that have gone back to back.
First time in like 20 years?
Something like that. Yeah. And going for the 3-peat next year. And they do have a chance because I imagine they're going to go pay for, if they're going to spend some of their money on a wide receiver, I would think.
I would think they're going to pay Chris Jones.
Yeah.
Got to pay him. Who do
And
you go? Do you go and you talk to Philly and see how happy AJ Brown is or isn't?
Philly ain't trading with you.
Listen, he
Philly
caused
ain't
enough of a
trading with
ruckus.
you. Philly, remember when Kyrie wanted to go to the Lakers? Brooklyn ain't dealing with the Lakers.
Yeah, you're right.
But props to Travis Kelce, though, because when he wasn't pushing his coach, he was out here hitting 19.8 miles an hour as a 34-year-old.
I was gonna say that. Nick Wright said on the show, he's like, that's the fastest Kelsey's ever been clocked, has been clocked in 7 years.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. That's the passion. That's the passion he had when he ran up on Andy Reid. Like, that shit fueled him.
So if you're San Francisco, where do you go from here?
You run it right back. You were a half a second block away on a chip on Chris Jones, and Ayuk's wide open for a touchdown.
You don't forget the blocked extra point.
The block extra point. I think Kansas City would. You're definitely in a better position, but Kansas City was they're inside the 10.
Maybe, but San Francisco was also like in prevent, trying not to give up the big play at that point too. So you probably play it a little different.
Yeah, you would. You
know what I mean? I'm not saying they would have stopped them.
You might be a little bit more aggressive because them getting in the field goal range is what's going to kill you. But I think in that moment, I think Mahomes in a close game, I just think he makes the play. I think he gets the whatever points you need, whatever amount of yards you need. I think he gets it. But if I'm San Francisco, I run it back. I don't know.
I think I might go, if I was San Francisco, the one thing I would look at is potentially, it didn't come into play in this game, but I think I would go get another corner.
I don't.
Maybe some interior offensive line. I would look at that. Trent Williams is
always use that. You can. Well,
I'm just saying Trent Williams is a year older.
I think the team played well enough to win the Super Bowl.
Definitely.
So I wouldn't go crazy. I wouldn't go
not time to fire
Kyle Shanahan. Like, come on, man. Like,
all right. So where does Kansas City go from here? Like, are they a legitimate threat to three-peat?
Depends on who comes back. Does Kelce ride off to the sunset? Does Andy Reid ride off to the sunset?
But does it? Because I mean, they lost Tyreek Hill.
I'm talking about like their big three.
Well, I know. I'm just saying they lost Tyreek. Reid. From what I was reading today, it sounds like Reid is leaning towards coming back. Like, it sounds like, he says he got a few more in him. It sounded like Kelce was along the same lines of, he's got a couple of more in him. As far as defensively, if they lose Snead, that'll obviously be a big loss.
They had another one of the corners got injured. I think he broke his leg.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I think he'll be back. He's a young guy, number 6. I forgot his name, but I remember watching the game. So
they still got big game Bolton.
If you can keep Spags, I think you're good to go.
Yeah,
you keep your linebacking core. If you keep your coaches and all the positions, coaches, OCs, and defensive coordinators throughout the league, I think they all been filled. Because I don't think Spags would leave and go be a DC anywhere else. So I think you're good there. So long as you can keep your coaching in place, you got Mahomes. He's going to give you a team friendly deal.
Well,
you give Jones his rightful due.
The Raiders have an offensive coordinator?
I don't know, but
I was just thinking about that. No, I know. I was just thinking about
that. I think
I know Kingsbury pulled out. They were going to hire Deshaun Foster, but then he took the job at UCLA. Yeah. So I don't know. But anyway, what I did, something I did like too was I liked the 6-1 with Justin Reed in the middle. That was a different look, that I thought was absolutely crazy when I saw it, what I'm saying? But it worked, putting him as the Mike linebacker. I think that they just did enough to disrupt Purdy enough to where Purdy still had chances to make plays, but the rhythm was off, or he had to rush, he had to, he couldn't step into the throw. He just had to get rid of it. So I agree with you that San Francisco
It was a lot of
should be
third.
running
It was a lot of third reads in his
it was a lot of
his route
plays.
combinations. It was like it wasn't like the first read just wasn't open line because I think Kittle is probably like your first or second read on a lot of plays because
Right,
he is a mismatch in the middle.
right.
Kansas City just took it away.
Well, there is, like I said, a time or two where it's 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, something like that, and I'm like,
Just take off.
just throw a quick screen, take off, throw it to the flat, just have McCaffrey literally go hike, run, and turn. You just dump it, draw a play. So then that way you at least make them think about blitzing. They probably still do, but maybe not as much. Like you got to find these openings and angles
And
that I
like I
just
said,
don't think
like
San
I said on our
Francisco
preview
found.
show, I thought that Kansas City was going to push up the middle just because he's on a smaller side. Chris Jones is 6'6", 330. You got Brock Purdy at 6'1". You're pushing a 6'3", 6'4" center guard into his lap. That's just a lot of chaos right in front of him. That's why he rolled. So that's why guys looked like they were open on the backside because he was getting pushed out of the pocket on a lot of his drives. That's why, like I said, that's why I think Kittle couldn't get that many touches because the push that they were getting up front. Some of these pushes turned to tips, interceptions. Like I said, I think we have a different MVP conversation. But the one fumble by McCaffrey was early. That caught me off guard. I never thought McCaffrey would be the guy to fumble. And then Pacheco, when he fumbled, I just was like, this is going to be a weird game.
How about Debo with the Paul Pierce?
What's that?
When we thought he hurt his hamstring, and I'm sitting up here like, oh man, Debo, like not in the Super Bowl, and then he's out here looking like a track star like 2 plays later.
And I saw that, like he pulled up. It probably like pinched a little bit. He was
and you got to feel bad for Greenlaw. Like you got to feel bad for him, man.
I don't even know what play it happened on. Like,
it didn't happen on a play. It didn't. He was running onto the field from the sideline and just fell.
I knew because I was cooking a bunch of food last night, so I was watching the game
here. But yeah,
and then my son said Greenlaw was out. I think I was like cooking, went to the bathroom, came back. It was like a commercial break or whatever.
No, he literally. It was like 3 or 4 of them coming onto the field at the same time, and he just literally fell. You know what I mean? And it was Achilles. But yeah, I'm sending it to you right now. But but like props to Steve Spagnuolo, for becoming the first coordinator to win 4 Super Bowls as a coordinator. So it's always nice to be historical, to be a part of history, And I mean, of course, his other Super Bowls weren't too shabby either.
That was the 18-1 Patriots, right?
So not too shabby. So I mean, he's been doing this. Obviously, he was 11-41 as a head coach.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was 11-41 as a head coach. So some people just aren't head coaches, or maybe it was just the wrong situation. I don't know, but he's obviously the right call for the Kansas City Chiefs. So I agree with you that I think that as long as they have him next season, I think they're definitely a threat to repeat. As long as they have Patrick Mahomes, they're a threat to repeat. As long as they have Travis Kelce with Patrick Mahomes, they're a threat to repeat. Now go out there.
Do you give Odell Beckham $11 million to come out there and run the slot? Run those Kadarius Toney routes?
No, you can send Odell Beckham down here to the San Antonio Brahmas. You can send him north of the border to mine Montreal Alouettes. You know what I'm saying? We'll take them off the NFL's hands. Like, not saying that it's completely over, but we're definitely on the downside.
Yeah. So I thought they should have made a move for a wide receiver last offseason.
I thought they should have got DeAndre Hopkins.
I thought so too. Maybe it's something. Maybe he just wanted too much money, and now he went to Tennessee. Because when guys bet on themselves, but sometimes you might listen. I've never been presented with $1 million or multi-million-dollar contract, so I don't know if I'm looking at a contract for $12 million versus $16 million. Like, does that extra $4 million Like, does it sway you? Because I don't know what that feels like. I don't know what was like looking down, saying, you know what, I'm gonna get 12 million. I'm gonna play here. I'm gonna get this many catches, or I can get 16 million and play here. I knew Tennessee was gonna be the right spot because they had too many quarterbacks already, and it's like they were gonna be a potential. It was gonna be a problem at quarterback because they had
not
three of them.
just too many quarterbacks, but too many question marks at quarterback.
Yeah, too many question marks at quarterback. They drafted quarterbacks.
Oh, did you hear that? The Steelers are looking at Ryan Tannehill. Bring him back with Arthur Smith, and they let Trubisky go today, fired on his day off.
I mean, it could work if Pittsburgh had a better run game. I don't think their run game is as, and I don't think Arthur Smith's play calling is going to help them that much either. I think Arthur Smith was just blessed to have Cordell Patterson and Tyler Algier.
Yeah.
And then go and get Bijan. But the run game, the play calls weren't that.
But can I get Cordell, aka as I like to call him, Corduroy? Can I get him at wide receiver though?
Nah, you're gonna get him. You're gonna get him there because it's just he's dynamic. He might be. I think he might be He might be someone that doesn't come back to Atlanta next year. I think he can. I think he can be moved.
Yeah, because they got Algier as well.
They got Algier. They got Bijan. They can go get a younger running back in the sixth, seventh round.
Mm-hmm. So
I think Kansas City. I think they'll run it back. I don't want to predict something that's never happened in the NFL, like the three-peat. Just it's not.
Well, I got my eye on one team, or two teams actually. I got my eye on two teams. No, one of them is not Buffalo. But one of them is my hometown Baltimore Ravens. What do they do? Because they probably need to go get another receiver to go with Zay Flowers, like an actual big time possession receiver that they can depend on.
I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no to that one.
And I'm looking at that team in Ohio. Not the well. I guess they both wear brown and orange, but no, the other one, Cincinnati, because now they get Joe Burrow back. They're going to be down T. Higgins probably more than likely. But what can they put on the defensive side? Because outside of Tom Brady, that's the one team or the one quarterback or whatever that went into Arrowhead and won a playoff game.
Yeah. I'm going to say that I don't think either one of those teams going forward. I like Joe Burrow. I don't know if he can stay healthy.
Right, that's the problem. So who's the biggest threat then? If it's not Baltimore?
I think the expectations for Baltimore and Cincinnati are going to be too high. So I fear a panic move happens with one of those two teams if their season starts off like they did this year.
Well, Joe Burrow 2-3, 2-4. Like that.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if that's sustainable. I know they're going to have to pay Jamar, and he's going to probably command 29 to 31 million a year.
Yeah, because we got to see what Jack gets, I guess, right?
I think, and that's going to weigh against each other. I think Minnesota might be able to pay more money because I don't think they're bringing Cousins back.
Well, hold on. Let's get back to the AFC for real quick. Let's get back to the AFC for a second.
Like, who could dethrone them?
Yeah, because you said Baltimore and Cincinnati. There's probably some issue there. Buffalo probably isn't it, obviously. Miami's probably not it, obviously. I doubt that, even though I think they'll be better, obviously, Aaron Rodgers isn't going to come save the day. And we already see what the Jets are about. They traded a dude. They got a dude, traded a dude that caught the game-winning pass in the Super Bowl for another team.
Because they weren't throwing him the ball and, out here in Jersey. Harbaugh
got to come through.
I think it has to be a surprise team. I think Harbaugh and the Chargers, because they get them twice. Because they can use 2 games as measuring sticks against Kansas City. So win or lose the first one, where you are. I don't think the other teams, if you're on the schedule, you get them once. I don't see teams beating Kansas City twice in 1 year. But I give the Chargers the opportunity just because they're going to get them twice. And if you play them if you play him twice in 2 tough losses, merch.
Sean Payton
Then
get a quarterback, or or he's still overrated.
I think Sean Payton I think he's still overrated. I think he's Mike McCarthy with Bill Belichick's attitude, and it's like, bro, you're not that good. You're not that guy, pal. And I think that's his problem.
Could somebody from the South rise? Could CJ Stroud with another year?
Indy has quarterback development. They got to figure out what they're going to do there. Peterson and Trevor Lawrence with all the weapons they don't look like a team that has a lot of weapons. When they're loaded with weapons, they don't like the outcomes of their games don't look like a team that's stacked. And then Tennessee, we got to see with the new coach, young quarterback. Houston has a shot, but I don't know if they have enough that's going to unseed.
They got money. They got money. So, we'll see if people are willing to come there to play for D'Amico, which I think they will. Yeah. So we'll see. I think they're going to be around, obviously not like going to the Super Bowl, but they're going to be around for a little bit. And then when I look at the NFC, for San Francisco, obviously Philadelphia theoretically, should be, I don't want to say fixed, but they should be better.
Philly, for some reason, just they're gonna have to trim some of their pieces. I think good players are going to be available off of Philly's.
Well, yeah, somebody asked for a trade today.
Hassan Reddick, they gave him permission to get a trade. I think AJ Brown could probably be out there. What's the boy name? Swift. He's already said that
he tired of Jalen Hurts taking his touchdowns.
Taking the touchdowns. So I think because
wiping.
Yeah, it was so much going on in Philly that they're gonna have to probably they'll get rid of a handful of guys that probably made impacts over the last couple of years and start fresh. Having Jalen Hurts at the helm, I think that puts them back in the conversation of being a 1 or 2 seed. I like Dallas.
I was going to say Dallas might get. I think they're in line.
I don't know if I got to see how they look after if they paid Dak $60 million.
Then you got Detroit got a taste this year.
I think Detroit. What they do is, I think their offense is simple. Dan Campbell either going to have to figure out is he Brandon Staley and I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, or am I going to make in-game adjustments like Andy Reid does at halftime? Like, what are you going to do? Because he literally, like I said, I still believe, I don't care what all the play, he cost his team the opportunity to play in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. It should have been Detroit, Kansas City.
We got
a whole half of football. It was like, you guys are going to the Super Bowl, and he just snatched defeat from the jaws of victory.
We got Jordan Love with another year coming up under his belt.
I like them. They're young. I think they'll be fine.
Weapons. They're not known yet, but he's got some weapons.
I think their division is going to give them 4 easy wins between whoever is at quarterback in Minnesota and whoever ends up being quarterback in Chicago. I think that's 4 wins.
Then
you need 9 to 10 to make the playoffs. I think they're going to get 4 off the rip in division.
McVay showed us that we have to be leery of the Rams as far as they can sneak up on you.
Stafford might be too old though.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. That's the question.
Might be too old to carry a team for a whole.
But I mean, they had the 3rd leading rusher in the league this year, though.
Yeah, but if that's all you really, I mean, they did well. They exceeded expectations.
Well, I was just saying, I don't think the way they John Elway, Terrell Davis thing, right?
Nobody runs the ball enough. You need a 2,000-yard rusher. You're not getting that out of McVay's offense. He might have 2,000 total yards for scrimmage, maybe.
And then I'm not even considering anybody from the South, though.
I wouldn't either. Like to keep it a being, I wouldn't. I could see it being another 9-8 division winner or 8-9 division winner out of that. I don't know what Tampa Bay is going to do with Baker Mayfield.
Right.
Like I said, I think you don't want to just be like, it's going to be a rematch. because anything can happen. Like I said, in the Green Bay game, the Green Bay kicker makes that field goal. Now San Francisco has to get a touchdown. We don't know if they even make it to the Super Bowl.
Right.
You know, you might have a Detroit Green Bay, NFC Championship.
Wouldn't that have been fun?
That would have been crazy. Considering, like, you imagine the level of confidence that Green Bay would have had going into San Francisco and beating the number 1 seed, and then playing a team for the 3rd time this year.
Right.
Can you Jordan Love getting back to the Super Bowl before Aaron Rodgers does?
That would be nuts. And I hope it happens too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we are. Sports Reports is ordered. And we got you covered as far as, everything NFL. Free agency is coming through in less than 30 days. So we're going to see what these teams look like so we can be more accurate with this stuff. We got a whole lot of NBA to get to. So, we will be back on Thursday.
Shout out to Draymond's beef with Kevin Durant.
Yes.
I don't think it's ever going to end.
Draymond walked up on KD and was like, "That's why I fucked your you skinny."
Yo, he was adamant. I'm me.
Me.
Push up. It's like, yo, you still mad? He got.
And I know, and Durant's all out here being nice, like, "Yo, Steph's the best point guard of all time." Shout out to Steph Curry for finally hitting a game winner. You know what I mean? Like, it's been a while.
That pass was bad. Like, I don't know if that play design makes a lot of sense, having your shooter on the other side of the court of the inbounder. Like, I'd rather him run that at the receive to receive the ball. Yeah.
You ready for my final shout out?
Let's hear it.
Shout out to the Indiana State Sycamores, ranked in the top 25 for the first time since Larry Bird.
French lick.
French lick, baby. Stand up. I mean, to be fair, though, French lick is no Millville.
Championship City.
You know what I'm saying? But, he is worldwide. More worldwide than West. He is Air Force veteran.
Absolutely.
He got the boot on your neck. He gonna shut you down.
Absolutely. That's what I do best.
Mister. I said Mister. Logically. And I am your resident statistician. Going through all the calculus, trying to find the angles. 2-5. Here to provoke thought. Not change your mind, but just make you use this just a little bit more than you have been. And we're through all that. Even though y'all clicking on Cam Newton, we still love you. And we love Grandma too.
Like, share, subscribe. Hit the bell on YouTube so you know when we go on live.
Wherever you get your podcast.
Apple, Spotify.
You know
Google,
what?
Anywhere. We
even on Audible, son.
Let's get it.
You know what I'm saying? So holla at the game.
Some of that Amazon money.
Peace.